Yes, team, the closing process in Mexico is a little bit different than the United States in that closings here are coordinated by what's called a notario. That's a federally appointed position. It's like a title company and a closing company all rolled into one entity. We'll talk about it in a minute.
Hello viewers, welcome back to another video. I am Maya, your interview host for Berkshire Hathaway Home Services here in San Miguel de Allende in central Mexico. Today we'll be discussing the legal process for buying property in Mexico, and who better to guide us than Greg Gunter, broker and co-owner of the sole Berkshire Hathaway Home Services office here in San Miguel de Allende. How are you today, Greg?
Good morning, Maya. Good to see you. Boy, it's a gorgeous morning out here. It feels like springtime already. It's only the third week of January here, and it feels like springtime. I'm loving it.
Yeah, I'm loving it too. And I'm also delighted to be having this conversation with you today. Viewers, as Greg has explained in prior videos, Mexico in general and San Miguel de Allende in particular has seen an influx of buyers in especially the last decade. Our other videos have covered the appeal of Mexico, but on this video, we'll focus a bit more on the legal aspects of real estate in Mexico. So Greg, let's give our viewers just a quick overview of Mexican property laws and how they are different in San Miguel de Allende.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. You know, the Mexican Constitution has restrictions on foreign property ownership for a good chunk of the country. What that means is people that live along the coast, anywhere along the coast or along the border with the United States, have restrictions on ownership. So if you're looking at buying a condo in Cabo or Puerto Vallarta or Mazatlan or Merida or, you know, Riviera Maya, Cancun, any of those areas, Ensenada, Tijuana, up near San Diego, those markets do not allow you to buy a home and own it fee simple. You are required to buy it through what's called a Fideicomiso, which is like a bank trust. So it's a different form of ownership because of the restricted zone restrictions along the coast and the border areas. Again, that process is called a Fideicomiso. Now, you don't have to worry about that in San Miguel de Allende. The wonderful thing about us in central Mexico, away from those so-called protected zones, is that you own property here outright. So you have a deed in your name. It's called fee simple ownership, just like in the United States. So it's a very simple ownership program here in San Miguel. You don't even need to worry about the restricted zones or any of that because it doesn't affect the San Miguel de Allende market. We're all fee simple ownership here. Good news for buyers.
Great news for buyers, Greg. And can you share with our viewers the legal process of buying property in San Miguel de Allende?
Yeah, sure. If we were going to do a step-by-step explanation of the legal process, of course, you know, one of the first things to do is find a good real estate agent. Do your research online. You know, that's very important to do your research online. Work with a very reputable firm, preferably a franchise that's a name that you recognize. And then from there, you're going to want to work with a licensed real estate agent because, believe it or not, there's a lot of agents in our community that are not, or they call themselves an agent, but they're not actually a licensed realtor. So that's important to do your research. Work with someone preferably that has a lot of research in the industry because we don't have an MLS here. So you can't research properties on your own. You can't learn about the history or find out about the last sale price or how long it's been on the market. You really need a really experienced and reputable realtor to provide that information for you. Of course, from there, you're going to want to find and view properties. And most of our clients do that online from the United States well before they come down. We often work with clients for many months in advance of them coming down to San Miguel de Allende. So our website, for instance, is very, very exhaustively informative for clients because they need to learn all about properties here and the market before they come down. So on our Berkshire Hathaway Home Services website here, you'll find every listing in town. We have a full MLS search. We also have a lot of informative pages that tell people about the city, the neighborhoods in town. Every article that's ever published about San Miguel de Allende in the press, from the New York Times to the Wall Street Journal to Condé Nast Traveler, is all on our website. You can find all that information in one place. You don't have to do a lot of Google research. So that's important to take a look at those properties and learn about the city in advance. Once you come down and work with one of our realtors and look at homes and you narrow it down to maybe the top 2 or 3 and go back and see them a second time, maybe at sunset, get a nice little a glass of wine at sunset and go, this is the one, we're ready, let's make an offer. So from there, you make an offer pretty much like in the United States. You're making an offer and then signing what's called a promissory contract or a promesa de compraventa in Espanol, in Spanish. So we will often do a normal sort of American style, the difference being that it's bilingual, it's in two languages. So it's side by side English and Spanish, because it has to be in Spanish for it to be legal in Mexico. You'll do a normal offer that's very much like one in the United States, the only difference being that it's in Spanish. A couple of rules have changed to make it legal according to Mexican law. You'll submit that. You might go back and forth one or two times to negotiate with the seller. Once you have a dual signed offer, then we go to a Mexican contract called a promesa de compraventa. It's just a more formal version of that offer contract because it includes a legal description of the property that we would not have had when we first put it in the offer. It'll also include everybody's passport numbers. And so it's just a much more legal version of the exact same offer that we've already done. The first one is legal, completely legal and binding in the first place. We just go on to the second one so that it's got a full legal description, ironically, because sometimes we have two street numbers on the same street. After that, we don't need to set up a Fideicomiso here because, as I said, you're going to own it fee simple. So it's a much simpler process here. When you buy along the coast, it's a much longer process. It can sometimes be a 90-day closing process because you have to set up the Fideicomiso and there's a lot more paperwork involved and a lot more waiting. Here, our typical closing period is about 30 days. Because the Fideicomiso process is not necessary here. It's a much simpler paperwork, just like in the United States. Oftentimes we have no loan involved, so there's no paperwork required from the bank or a lending institution or an appraisal or anything like that. So it's a much simpler process here. And then finally, 30 days later, typically, our typical time frame is about 30 days, we're going to closing. Now, the closing here is organized by that gentleman that I was talking about. We'll talk a little bit more about him in a minute, called the notario. They'll coordinate the closing process with our legal team that we work with, and us, of course, organizing, us being the realtor team, hopefully from Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, coordinating that whole process for you. Simple closing process. Generally here, we all meet at the closing table, buyers and sellers together, unlike in the United States where you never see each other. Here, they're typically together. Although in many cases, one of the parties will have a power of attorney and they don't show up. So a very simplified process. Yeah, it's easy to do, just like in the United States.
Thank you, Greg, for going over this process so thoroughly. Now, Greg, I think it's important to help our viewers understand the role of a notario, like you just mentioned, and how they manage the process of closing on a home purchase.
Yeah, so that notarial that I talked about is completely different. A lot of people go, oh, is that like a public notary in the United States? Everybody in the world's a public notary. I'm like, no, nothing at all. That word comes from the Latin derivative, of course, and that's why the word notarial comes from. But down here, a notarial is a federally appointed position, just like a judge is for life. It's a life appointment. It can be revoked if you break the law, if you manage a sale process that's not free and clear of encumbrances, that sort of thing, the notario can lose that position. So it's something that's federally appointed, subject to him not breaking the law, basically. The notario he's a real estate attorney that goes to a special notario school and then gets that federal appointment. So there are not very many notarios. They're kind of rare, but they have to have a real estate attorney background in the first place to do that. Now, remember I said a little earlier in the video, they're a lot like a title company and a closing company all rolled into one entity. So the notarial's office does the full title search. When you work with a Berkshire Hathaway Home Services agent, we'll let you know after you put an offer in within the first 24 hours if that property is free and clear of any kind of liens and encumbrances. That's an actual formal piece of paperwork that you'll get back from us. Many other realtors do not do that. That's an important part of the process. You need to know very early on before you put money into escrow if you're buying a property that's free and clear of encumbrances. That notario is the one that, and his legal team is the one that does that research for you and tells you that. So that's how the notario works a little differently than a closing company and a title company here. They're all kind of rolled into one entity, like I said. The notario will ensure that all the paperwork is completely legal and that it protects the buyer's interests. As I say, he's like a real estate attorney. And so because you're paying his fees, he's legally obligated. He has a fiduciary responsibility to you as the buyer to make sure that what you're buying is free and clear of encumbrances, to make sure that all of your property tax, your acquisition taxes are paid. You know, down here in San Miguel de Allende, we have a 4% acquisition tax. We have another 1.1% of the purchase price that pays for the notarial's fees. So that would be like paying for the closing company and for the title search, all rolled into one. That also pays for the city recordation fees, the city appraisal that's done, all of those city fees and the notarial fees all rolled into that 1.1%.
Well, thank you, Greg, so much. I'm sure our viewers will find this information extremely, extremely valuable. We discussed Mexican property laws, the legal process of buying property in Mexico, as well as the role of a notario in the process of closing a home purchase, which is very different from the one in the United States. So thank you for explaining this, and thank you so much for your time being with us today. Viewers, we want to hear from you, so comment below with your experiences or thoughts or questions about the legal process of buying property in Mexico. And also, don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe for more valuable content like this. Thank you again, Greg, for your time.
Thanks so much, Maya. It was great chatting with you again. And viewers, make sure you check out the rest of my YouTube channel. Subscribe, of course, and you'll see the rest of the videos. But I just put a new listing on, so you'll see a lot of other good videos. You know, I do a lot of good lifestyle videos as well and new listing videos. So make sure you check out the YouTube channel for a lot of other better, fun, exciting videos of great homes.
Exactly. Please do check that out. And also our website, you'll find a lot of information there. Thank you for watching, viewers, and until next time, take care.